for the first time together in a podcast. We have with us today the unchallenged Shahs of the Indian theatre scene.
You can't think of a single actor who started in cinema and became a great theatre actor, whereas the reverse is very, very true.
Theatre actors, I feel, because of their necessity for rehearsal over the years, are able to, I think, swing between both.
What you're doing has to have value for you. Right. And you've got to see that I want to be committed to this and I want to spend time and energy and effort on this.
I have a tendency to start with the external and work my way in. And Ma keeps telling me that the danger of that approach is that then one focuses too much on effect.
But I remember you telling us you should rehearse your lines while the lighting people were setting up their lights.
Yeah.
So that really helps you focus.
What I make them do is perform an activity, go to my bookshelf, take out all the books on the top shelf, while speaking your lines, and put them back in the same order.
I cannot understand actors who want the eyeline cleared.
Why should you be bothered by a light boy standing there doing his job? He's not getting disturbed by you spouting your bloody emotional line.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of the second season of Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana, an Aadyam podcast produced by M&M Talkies. Now this episode is a very special one for many reasons. We have with us today the unchallenged Shahs of the Indian theatre scene. Now I have known this family for pretty much my entire existence and they have impacted my life and journey in many ways. But I also know that I am not alone. Cumulatively, the cultural impact that this family has had is probably unparalleled. This is a family of actors, directors, writers, musicians, teachers. The list is endless. In this episode, we're going to talk about family, wearing many hats, and most importantly, legacy. So please welcome, for the first time together in a podcast, Naseeruddin Shah, Ratna Pathak Shah, Heeba Shah, Imaad Shah, and Vivaan Shah. Thank you so much for coming on this last episode of this second season of Unscripted with Akarsh Khurana. When I reached out for this podcast also, I messaged her and she said, you'll have to talk to him. So I said, I suppose 45 is a good age to stop being intimidated. So I'm working on it. So my first question actually is to the kids. So that's my relationship with them. It's been extremely formative and wonderful, but also a bit scared of them. How's it been for you all, personally and professionally? Since you all have had personal and professional equations. So here's the chance. Say it, I think. We'll edit it if they say anything. But how's it been for you guys growing up in... because it's been very parental, my relationship with them. And even with him, we've interacted a lot. But it's like वो देखते हैं ना किताबों में और फिल्मों में कि तो जो आर्मी वाले फादर होते हैं जिनसे तमीज से बात करनी है. But he's good and friendly, but you can't cross a line. So it's been that. So how's it been for you guys?
Let Heeba start because she's the one who's had to deal with us for the
Yeah, I
longest
think
time.
we'll go age-wise. So, because hopefully you all will have also, the edges will have got blunt as you all reached Vivan. No? So
Hopefully. Vivan ka sunenge, baad mein pata chalega.
They've been, they always knew what they wanted. So of course they were strict, but they've also been very, very kind at the same time. And I think it's been great fun working with them. I really can't think of any instances where, of course, we all got yelled at, not only me, but a lot of people. Sometimes you have to, and later when I started directing people, I realized that at times you need to be a little strict. And I appreciate that because I also worked with Dubiji and I actually don't mind the yelling. So it's not that they've only yelled at me all the time, and they've given me a lot of space, and they've also appreciated whenever I work hard, and they've always they've made sure that I'm always on my toes. And I like that. I like being on my toes. So, yeah.
Yeah, the toes factor definitely in theatre. But theatre is also a kind
I
of
kept
art.
them on their toes with the wrong cue. So I suppose they're paying it back.
But it's the nature of the art form, right? Like so many times we've been backstage and the attention has wavered a little bit and suddenly like you miss a cue or something and then there's hell to pay within 5 seconds. And that's how the art form operates. You miss an entry, you miss a cue or something, there there should be hell to pay or whatever. So the kind of constant focus is something I've learned from both of them, which is not easy, and it's kind of a basic starting point for anyone doing theatre, I would imagine, because you can't let your mind wander, essentially. You have to be all there at all times. It's like playing a sport almost. So and I'm somebody who my mind wanders a lot. I'm kind of have an overactive imagination. I tend to daydream a lot. And while doing a play, that's not the greatest thing to do. So from that point of view, that kind of checks and balances, that's to do with the craft, and that's sort of like I would think like a starting point for anyone doing theatre. So that's kind of setting down like a basic thing to do with the craft, which is so essential. And of course, growing up, I mean, every day was a bit of a wild card, sure. There was like, but I mean, yeah, so many, even with the plays, like there's so many wonderful memories of growing up around the couple of plays that I did grow up around, Androcles and the Lion, waiting for Godot more than anyone else, more than any other play actually, because that was such an intense play to live with, and hearing those words as a child, and then as a slightly older child, and a slightly older child, and then an adult, I've kind of have a relationship with that play in all different phases of childhood.
Yeah. You could do a little set, with all the boys of Godot.
Yeah, I have a waiting.
What became of all of them?
I have a waiting for Godot question, which is for all of you, which I'll come to. But I think one thing that also which also Heeba can add to her answer is that particularly when you're also working with the family and then you're kind of coming home and it's there. So one thing that we noticed when I was working, say with Dad, we used to take work home. And that wasn't always the best thing. Like sometimes it was good to kind of keep being in that creative space and talking about it, but sometimes the creative differences would kind of come back home. And I think mom would always be the one kind of caught in that crossfire. That that dining table is becoming that place about you screwed up, so I can do that differently. So did y'all ever feel that kind of thing, or was there a demarcation?
No, there was always demarcation. Like I remember when I was not in Motley yet. When I was in school, I remember these guys were rehearsing when they were very, very young, and I would do my homework and I would hear these guys getting all excited and shouting, "No, Baba and his gang, and Ma," and like this is in the late 80s, early 90s. So they would, and I always was very curious to see what was happening. So I would go and sit or pretend to take tea for them. So I did help backstage. There was always a demarcation. I don't think we ever brought any tension home. Like if there were discussions on the table, like maybe you should have done this way or that way. So yeah, I don't think there was any tension.
But I was too young to get that in some cases, because for me for the longest time, watching a Dear Liar rehearsal was traumatic. Because I used to be like, आप लोग कितना झगड़ते क्यों हो यार? वैसे भी couples fight, अब theatre में भी झगड़ रहे हो. So I used to be like, I can't watch this rehearsal. I couldn't see the play for the longest time. Literally, I would be like, I'm not going to watch this one.
Which was about the most perceptive comment we ever received on Dear Liar. What Imaad said, and then we amended our performances.
That was a real insight. And it showed very clearly that even someone like Dubey could get it wrong. Dubey has had a very sharp sense of what works in the theatre. But in this case, I really think that it was a mistake. There's that constant...
So you changed the tonality?
Entirely. So
but
much
the
changed.
script didn't demand this. It was a
No, we
directorial
didn't.
choice.
We hadn't searched the script enough.
Oh.
And Dubey's tendency was always argument. Whatever play he did was an argument.
Right.
And he made this into an unending argument.
Right.
And Imaad was the first one to point this out. I don't like it because you guys are quarreling all the time. And then we both sat down and thought, that means we're doing something wrong if such a comment can come. And we found more meaning in the text once we decided to dispense with the constant snapping at each other.
And another very big insight was the fact that, in the play, again, Imaad pointed it out. But why, I thought that Mrs. Patrick Campbell, the actress, is the much bigger star at the beginning, isn't she? So why don't you look like the star? And I said, oh, yeah, right. Why don't I look like the star? And from many points, I mean, there were many, many things that led up to it, but one important thing was the fact that Naseer was the bigger star between the two of us, and I let that overshadow what was required in the play. So that was a big mistake.
Was is the operative.
At that time. Now I'm an equally important star if you want to add that business. But the point is that at that time, I really didn't, I mean, our status was in the play was determined by our real life status.
Right.
So that is a mistake. That's a way. And if you are acting with family as we are,
Yes.
we are all acting in one herd very often. So how do you disconnect
Keep
the
that,
family
yeah,
part of
yeah,
it
yeah.
and then just react to each other as the actors are supposed to react to each other?
Segueing into Dear Liar a bit, like when you were making these changes, like the tonal changes, or even this, changing the balance in terms, was Dubey involved, or did he set it up and move on?
Dubey set it up and moved on. I think he saw one show.
Ever?
Yeah.
No.
Or
In the
maybe
beginning
two.
he saw many.
Maybe
he used
three.
to come along also with us when we travelled.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, एक बार Bangalore आए थे एक दो बार. Kolkata, Bangalore.
Well, I don't remember. And when we'd say, Dubey ji, आप आते क्यों नहीं? He said, भाई कितना बुरा कर लोगे?
Fair.
कितना बुरा कर लोगे? So finally, when we did, I think, the 100th show or something, we
Called him.
he was dead by then. We got Dubey's photograph and put it on the first row in the center. And we said, now you can't escape.
Viv, Bhaiji, now you had to contend with 4. So how was that?
You know, it's very interesting. I think that it's something very similar to that you all have, the Khuranas. That's similar between the Khuranas and the Shahs, is that all of us, we're blessed that as family members, we also happen to be artistic collaborators.
Yeah.
We also happen to be in an artistic partnership. We're constantly jamming together. I think a question that all of us get asked a lot is that what are your dinner table conversations like?
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people keep asking us that, and I think that they're very substantive. And I guess anybody, a family that's a sporting family would probably discuss cricket or football. Similarly, we discuss things that interest us, and that, and hence, of course, sometimes it can go into an argument. But as the famous saying goes, that you can only argue with someone with whom you are in fundamental agreement. So you know, there's a wonderful back and forth, and it's a really stimulating environment, and we are very blessed that we are kindred spirits, that we are like-minded souls. We have the same interests. We have the same, and hence we can collaborate together and jam together. That's a real blessing as a family, you know.
Yeah, and over time we become friends. I mean, we were always friends,
exactly.
but now we are more like, you forget that you are working with a family. You work with friends. And then
Our youngest ran away from this. He wanted to be a
Forensic
biologist.
scientist.
So he ran away from this. He didn't want any part of this. But then, fate. So he's back here.
Actually, that's the trouble. You get born into a family like that, you're worthless for anything else. It is a big problem. I mean, to a certain extent, that happened to me. Because I was born into a more or less theatre kind of family.
I wanted to actually talk a little bit about your relationships with your parents. And how did they of course, you came from that world very much, and we've heard that. You came from not that world, or am I wrong?
No, not at all.
And how did they either shape it or contest it, or...
Yeah, I was totally shaped by that. Very much so.
But you didn't want to start off, you were not happy being an actor, you wanted to
To
do
start
the,
with,
yeah,
no, because that was something that, one, I didn't think about it deeply enough. I sort of feel that I had no dreams. But now when everyone talks about you must follow your dream, I was trying to remember what my dreams were. And I didn't have too many dreams. I just wanted to have fun, and I wanted to be with the right kind of people and do something interesting. Like Dubey ka Hayavadan dekh karke aisa laga ke aisa main kuch karna chahti hu. But I didn't have any concrete idea of what I wanted to do. So that was one thing. And of course, everyone in school, particularly teachers, would go on about, oh, your mother is an actress, you'll also become an actress, which I found offensive beyond belief. And I said, no, I wouldn't. I'd become an air hostess or something, whatever I felt like saying that day.
But in actuality, because you were growing up in that world, were you actually considering moving out of it at all?
Not really. I don't think I thought about it, and if I'm honest with myself, I wouldn't have been able to move out of it. That was the world all around me.
Right.
And it was a very, very interesting world. However poor quality work they produced. And Gujarati plays produced a lot of poor quality work. That's the kind of work my mom and my aunt was involved with. So it was a it was painful sometimes to watch what they were doing. But all the same, it was so much better than somebody going to an office doing a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, sure.
So there was no contest.
And how did your mother react when you chose this?
She, in fact, was the most offended, the most worried of between the two. She said that, my goodness, no, don't go there. It's bad world, difficult times. You're going to have a horrible time, vagara, vagara. I think she had seen the various aspects of this business, and it wasn't very easy, definitely, for her. And my father, on the other hand, made a very sensible comment. He said, at least this way you'll know where she is in the evening. She's at a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And that put paid to all conversation about this. And I thought that was very sensible. At least you know where you are. This is where I am, and I feel happy, I'm comfortable. I want to learn more about this. So that's how I decided then to go to NSD.
And Naseeruddin, you, I mean, I know that school is where you kind of discovered like maybe the passion for it, but what was the family's take or reaction or expectations?
That I'd become a doctor or something like that. Respectable profession. I'm from a very straight-laced family who believed in acting in real life. They were very good actors in real life, yeah. There was this grandmother who faked blindness. Yeah. Until well, she didn't fool me because she had a sister who was actually blind, and this was sibling rivalry asserting itself at the age of 80. Crazy. Where she said, "Oh, mujhe bhi kuch dikhai nahi deta." But when she needed to see something.
That's where you got your inspiration for Sparsh. And that's how you managed to convey it to Mr. Pacino. Oh, you can see all the way down to Nani or Dadi.
Absolutely, yeah. Nani. And I had a couple of very handsome uncles, my mother's brothers, both of whom should have become actors. They would have been stars. Whether they could act or not didn't really matter. It never has. And
what did they do instead?
Oh, one of them farmed all his life and the other did nothing. Except, just have peccadillos all over the place. Died early. I used to hero worship them. And movie watching and theatre watching started very early in life for me. We were in Nainital. My dad was the deputy collector, so we could walk into any theatre we felt like. And we did. And he would kind of encourage us to, maybe he just wanted to get us the hell out of the house. Because I was 5, my brother was 7, and the other was 8. And the first play I ever saw was in the school where my brother was studying, my eldest brother was studying, St. Joseph's. It was magic for me to see that play. It was called Mr. Fix-It, I still remember. And there was this limousine which came gliding onto the stage. And I was mesmerized. Later I discovered it was just a cardboard cutout. But there was also the Shakespeareana company, which I've been watching since I was 5 or 6 years old.
The Kendalls.
The Kendalls. At that time, the company was quite large.
And they would travel to Nainital.
And they would travel to schools all over the country.
And they performed at yours as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They would perform in fact, there's a map at Prithvi Theatre.
Yes, I've seen that.
Where, it shows all the places they traveled. And they always performed only to educational institutions, which I didn't know at that time. For me, it was just magic to watch the same plays which put us to sleep in class, turning into absolute riveting presentations. And I decided I would be an actor because I was no good at anything else. I was decent at cricket, but that was about it. And I used to watch these movies and imitate actors like Spencer Tracy and Anthony Quinn and so on. And I thought I did not a bad job of it. Then, of course, the time came to decide after school, ab kya karoge? So my dad, of course, wanted me to study science, and also I tried to study science. I didn't get admission anywhere, so finally I moved over to arts and started. Through school also, The last few years of school, there was this priest called Cedric Fernandez who encouraged me a great deal. My parents had no idea
They didn't know you were doing this.
They didn't know I was acting in plays and so on. If I got a prize or something, I wouldn't show it to them because I knew, the sky would fall on my head, if I dared. It took a long time for my parents to come to terms with the fact that this is what I wanted to do. My mum understood a little earlier, though she was uneducated, but my dad was very fixed in his views and never really came around. Never, when I went to the drama school, he never visited. I think he was terrified to visit because I told him that we have a common hostel for boys and girls. I'm not going there. And then when I managed to earn a bit of money with my first film, he softened a little, but never lived long enough to see me become successful. So I don't know how he would have reacted, but I think he would have been pretty proud because when I got a national award or a Padma Shri or something and went to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, I used to say, "You're watching me, old man. You know where I am right now."
And when the roles were reversed and you all became the parents, was it then a given that these guys would choose this path? Or did you ever, or was it open? Did you all want something else for them ever?
No, I didn't
want
I didn't
anything.
want anything in particular.
They had to decide on that.
We just thought that let them find their own path. Let them find their own path. We didn't try to determine whether they should become this or that. I couldn't see them becoming doctors or mathematicians or engineers.
In fact, I remember a very interesting conversation with Gulan Kriplani once. And Gulan said, our kids are all growing up and what are they going to do? And there was some conversation, and the point that finally we both agreed on was how would our kids rebel against our kind of families, It's hard to rebel against people who are not laying down any major rules, right? So Gulan said, they'll rebel by becoming corporate honchos. And I swear for a while I was really scared that, my goodness, if that's the rebellion, how will I handle it?
And did you all ever consider anything else? Seriously? I mean, I know now you, of course, are a novelist and you're a musician and you all have branched out. But the kind of beginning was very performing arts related. But did you all at any point of time ever seriously consider not getting into this?
Like Maz said, that we used this similar refrain we grew up hearing in our childhood is that, "Arey yaar, padhai kyun kar rahe ho? Tum to bade hokar actor hi banoge." So that, of course, put one off the whole notion of growing up and becoming an actor, because then that was our reverse rebellion. Ki nahi, main bade hokar engineer banunga. It was a strange, irrational response.
But that didn't go anywhere, Vivan.
Naturally, because we realized how much work you have to do to become an engineer.
That ended very soon. So no, neither of you all ever thought of something else?
No, for me it was somewhat different. Like, it was never padhai kyun kar rahe ho, actually. I think it was Baba's experience with his Baba that led to this mindset of now we'll make sure we do the exact opposite of this. So there was a very healthy kind of atmosphere of figure it out on your own, in your own time. Don't let anyone tell you what you should or shouldn't do, and so on. So coming out of, at the end of school, beginning of college, I was playing guitar, I was playing in a rock band, so I was a punk in my head. And that was completely antithetical to everything that was happening in Bombay film industry in 2004-05, around that time. So I guess you could say it wasn't the greatest phase of Hindi cinema, perhaps. And I definitely was very at my angsty kind of peak at that time. So I was very opposed to it for the longest time. And then I think things started to change and evolve. Work started to get better, and my own mind started to also become a little more open. I think that those teenage years is when you're at your kind of also narrow-minded in some way, looking for something to rebel against. Yeah. So all of that formed this kind of cocktail, I think, in my head.
Also, no, I must specify that this thing of like padhai kyun kar rahe ho was said to us by peers.
Yeah, of course.
In fact, they always stressed Despite the fact that even at the back of their head they thought that, chalo, we'll grow up and become actors, but throughout our childhood they always stressed academic activity and to be serious about academics and to not take it lightly and all. And that is something that I can't tell you how
I'm
grateful
glad
I
you-
am.
yeah.
That
Thank
they
you.
always, Baba would help us with our Hindi,
Yeah.
Ma would help us with history, they were very serious about our involvement with academics.
Baba
They
would
were like,
help with
never take a
biology
study,
also.
everything.
Yeah, I think I had a feeling somewhere that they would be actors. And what the acting profession needs is educated actors. That is a very strong belief that I have.
Yeah.
And every young man who comes to me or young lady who comes to me and says, I want to become an actor, I tell them, don't think that that means that you can skip your education. It's a crying need today, educated actors. We've had uneducated guys ruling the roost long enough.
And it doesn't need to be formal education. It's
Self-education.
an education that is
Yeah,
skill-based.
not
Yeah.
necessarily learning acting. It's not the theatre education, but just
Yeah.
being educated to a certain level. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Educating yourself
Self
about life.
about life.
I mean, look at Om Puri, for example. Self-educated man. Look at Ashok Mehta, self-educated man, and two of the most brilliant representatives of their respective professions.
So now jumping forward to the fact that you'll all.
I'd like to add one little bit about this education bit. I felt that we have the resources and we'd really like our kids to have formal education opportunities. But all of them rejected those opportunities.
In terms of in this line, like
In
training
this,
for
yes,
okay.
yes. I mean, they did their BA and all that basic education, tick, but no skilling kind of training did they want from a formal setup, and it used to bother me a great deal.
And both of you actually did attempt
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You all went through that.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes, both of us have done full
NSD
formal.
and F-
Naseer's
Baba
done a
did
double
FTI
dose.
also.
Yeah.
Except when I said I want to go to FTI. The Baba was like, you're funding that yourself.
Oh, really? You said
So what's that about?
No, Baba had his own relationship with it.
With NSD and FTI.
FTI more.
FTI. NSD is all bliss. but,
Oh.
but the interesting thing is that they are, all of them, genuinely self-educated, in spite of the whatever formal education opportunities they had. But their work-related education is almost entirely self-motivated. And I find that very fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what the drawbacks of that are. There are a few I can see. But in many ways, I feel that it's a terrific way to approach training yourself.
Yeah, you find your own. I mean, Heeba has written some plays entirely on her own.
Yes.
On her own initiative, she started to do them. On her own initiative, she staged them. Now, I don't know where that came from because none of us are writers.
Vivan.
Some of us are.
Aim also.
Yeah, he
So
went
it was-
the
it
novelist
was-
way. He's like he's gone there. Like, yeah. and the music, where did that come from? That was, neither of you have any
No.
in the music background?
No.
So this
He
found
came home
himself-
from school one holiday with a guitar instead of a cricket bat.
Yeah.
So a little bit about waiting for Godot, because it's important to a lot of us, I
Yeah.
suppose. And we've all had memories. I don't know if you were very directly involved with any production of it.
I
know
remember
that,
watching it when I was.
because we've been the boys.
Yeah, I know.
Ma has also been the boy.
She's been the
She's
boy.
also been the boy.
So we've obviously got some sort of memories associated with it.
I have a lovely photo of you. You've seen that, obviously.
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
of you
yes.
as
you
the
tend
boy.
to post that on every birthday of mine.
Correct.
And make me feel worse about my life. But no, yeah. So that was an important kind of play, and I'll get to the memories associated for all of us with that. But firstly, what the hell does the play mean? What is it about, and why did you do it so much?
Benjamin Gilani wanted to do it. I had studied it in drama school and couldn't understand a word of it. And in my final exam, I in fact wrote that this play is nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. This playwright is making a fool of everybody. And I got 0 for that. I nearly failed. I came second last in my class in the drama school. The guy who came last is another story. Yeah. But I was blasted like crazy for having written this. Then Benjamin and I was shooting for Junoon in Lucknow, and one day he said, why don't we start a theatre company? So I said, yeah. He said, no, let's do it, and we'll do Waiting for Godot. So I said, you direct it. So he said, okay, I'll direct it. And of course, we muddled through 1 year of rehearsal, did the show, which was much applauded and all, and without really understanding anything. We began to understand it when we stopped trying to understand it. That's when it really began to sink in. In fact, it's taken me, we started Godot in we performed first performed Godot in 79. It's now 2025. It's taken me at least 40 years to understand what the tree is all about. Why is there a tree? And it occurred to me while I was planting a sapling in Wangni at our farm. And I realized that when a man dies, he's put into the earth. But when a seed is to be born, it's put into the earth. It was like a epiphany. And I spoke to Ben about it, and he went, oh, yeah. We finally found out what the tree is. And the tree is now bare. It is not.
Neither
The
life
line
nor
give
death.
birth astride a grave.
Alive, not dead, yeah.
Yeah.
You give birth astride of a grave.
Yeah.
And the play in itself, what does it come to mean for you?
It's a play of hope for me. It's not about the futility of life. It's not about the futility of waiting. It's about stick it out. That is what I have, that's the conclusion I've come. Earlier I thought very nihilistic and this and that and negative and all that, but I don't think it's that at all. It's a very true picture of life. Ever since I gained a lot of possessions, I find myself feeling my pockets all the time, like Pozzo.
For every situation in life, there is something out of Godot that you can use to make sense of that situation. It's quite extraordinary, that play.
No, I think what is actually also extraordinary is because it ran so long and with so many casts that it was doing really well, despite the fact that I'm not sure anybody was very clear about what they were watching.
What they were
Except
watching.
Or what the end game was. I mean,
Yeah.
for the, I mean, they watched. They were great performances, and it was lovely to kind of go on that journey. But I don't know about resolution. I don't know if anyone ever got.
I think
Except for one show in Doon School. That was the first show we did for kids.
Right.
And they allowed the little ones also to come, class 7 kind of little ones also were there. And those kids had a blast. They just enjoyed Godot from word go.
they take it at its face value.
And they thought it was funny.
Two funny guys hanging around.
And stranger and stranger things keep happening as the play goes along.
Yeah.
They didn't bother about the philosophy. Kuch nahi. They just had a blast.
It's like you have to submit to that play. You can't watch it and try analyzing it because it's too dense. My eldest brother, in fact, who was the brains of the family, still today maintains, what the hell does this play mean, yaar? I don't know. I've seen it thrice. I don't understand it.
My mother saw it 5 times and still didn't understand it. But she came to see every show that they did.
But it's like you submit to it like you submit to music. You don't understand the music, but you enjoy it. I think that can happen with a play like Godot. It's a symphony of words. That's how I see it.
It's a bit like analyzing a song. Sometimes the more you analyze it, the more you take away the fun of it also.
Yeah.
Like even this,
And I think it also depends on what stage of your life you're at, right? Because when you're listening to it and you're listening to the lyrics of something, I was just seeing something about like...
It can change also.
When someone was talking about Dylan right now because the film has come out,
Yeah.
Complete Unknown just came
Yeah.
out. And it's like, depends on how old you are,
Yeah.
that what that song makes...
Means to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sense to... What do you remember of it, you guys? What do you remember of your experience?
I remember watching it when I was in school, and they had you were also doing Arms and the Man at the same time. So there was Sushmita Mukherjee was also sitting next to me, and I was watching it for the first time, and I was laughing,
In Pune. And she was crying.
and she was crying right next to me, and she was crying with tears and making sounds, and I said, she's saying, no, you won't understand it, you're too young. But like I kept watching it later, I loved it every time. So I think she understood it.
No, something in it touched a chord in her.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Maybe it was just one moment, or one line or something.
Yeah.
So if it does that to you, that's a good thing, though. Though it's not a play worth crying through. I mean, there's a lot of laughter in it.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah,
What do you remember? So,
it kind of haunts you, you know. And I remember reading a lovely piece that you wrote many years ago. There was a pamphlet of some sort. I'm forgetting what the occasion was. It was, and you had written, it is a Prithvi pamphlet, and you had written about your experiences as a child with Godot and about how you were kind of haunted by the impressions as a child that which you don't understand at that point. And I don't remember if you were talking, I think you were talking about Godot, but you were probably also talking about the other plays that you would have seen with our parents and with your parents. Kane
particularly.
and
I
many
remember
others. And
this
I remember
article.
a beautifully
PT
written
notes
piece by
probably.
you about the impressions on a child where this very dramatic and a lot of shouting and intense stuff is going on, and how a child processes that. But in Godot, for me, always the second half, and especially the second half ka entry of the kid, when Baba feels that he's lost his friend. That is, I mean, that kid, just thinking about that only makes you tear up. But in Baba's performance, the look in his eyes, and as a kid going on and seeing him, and not understanding what that look in his eyes was, and over the years as one grows older you understand that, you know. So it was a very profound experience. It almost can't be described almost. It's and Beckett never described, no, he never spoke. He was very Dylan-esque in that way. He never spoke about his work. He shrouded it in mystery. Like,
No, he couldn't.
He couldn't,
He said, if it could be explained in
I
any
would
other
have-
words, I would
I
have
would
used
have
those
done
words.
yeah.
If I knew who Godot was, I would have said so. There's nothing to explain.
And Godot is probably one of those plays that even he doesn't understand entirely how it emerged like this, because I can't imagine too many revisions of this script.
35 years old when he wrote it.
35-year-old young man writing stuff like this, which is appropriate for every situation in life. What is it? Some spark, some freakish moment in a person's life? I don't know what.
you remember playing the boy? How was that?
Of course, of course. I remember enjoying myself thoroughly through the rehearsals, because I was, even before I started doing the boy, rehearsals would happen at home. I would keep hearing them. So these words were kind of, so by the time I did the boy, a lot of the lines, I kind of knew them almost. I didn't even know that I knew them. But when I started listening to rehearsals actively, I began to realize that I know these lines. I've heard them so many times before. And I think more than anything, it was just watching the three of them, Bentaya, Akash Uncle and Baba, essentially just like jamming with each other. Yeah. So it was this kind of back and forth between the three of them. That was probably the first thing which struck me of like, wow, like actors can have such a level of comfort with each other, and they can kind of hit these cues so pat and have this kind of rhythmic kind of patter going on with the dialogue. I think that was my first impression of the play. And I was really kind of in awe of the three of them, but also just thoroughly used to enjoy watching those rehearsals, because it was pure fun. Like there was no analysis involved. Okay, what does this mean? It was pure fun. I think it was a comedy for me as a kid more than anything else.
When I got cast as the boy, the first assignment that Bentaya gave me, I vividly remember this, it was downstairs, was to open a small notebook and to write down the whole play while you all were saying it. And you know, that is, I think, the greatest exercise for anyone who wants to be a writer or a playwright, is to take a great work of literature or a play and to try and write it down.
Write it down.
Just to see how the clockwork mechanism is almost put together. You know, you get a deeper insight into it.
So, okay, so I mean, obviously, I think because of the access that was available to us and to you all, I mean, you all started your, say, acting work purely as actors right now with them, or you know, in productions that were kind of being helped by them. So, in time, since you all have all, you three have also evolved into actors of your own being, and you all are very different actors. I just want to talk a little bit about, like, what are the differences in your processes in terms of as actors? Like when you all are kind of approaching, like how different or how similar are you all? Is that something that's kind of filtered down in terms of how he approaches material or she approaches? Or do you see a stark difference in how they approach their work?
I have a tendency to start with the external and work my way in. And Ma keeps telling me that the danger of that approach is that then one focuses too much on effect, on trying to produce an effect with your performance. And that's something that Ma and Baba always have tried to steer me away from, because I tend to find some actors start in the inside and they work towards the externals. I start with the externals and I work towards.
What do you mean by that? You kind of first
By the
work
body
out
language, the expression,
right.
even the speech.
Largely, you
also
were very
even
focused on
like
speech.
the stuff that you're wearing. You know, it could be the hat that you're wearing or the coat, something like that. So these kinds of things tend to inform. In my case, but then as Mas says, that you run the danger of then focusing too much on effect rather than actual discovery. which is
And so
which is
you-
what I think Baba's process is. Where I think you probably do you start with the internal or the external? Is it easy to delineate?
Well, it's a
mix of both,
It's
yeah.
a mix. Because starting from the internal can often lead to a lot of navel gazing, you know, and it has its pitfalls. So does starting from the external. I
external,
think it has to
exactly.
be a mix of both.
But I think all of us are fond of words.
Right.
So words are the entry point into the performance for me, definitely, and I think maybe for others also. Maybe a little less for Heeba because she's much more physical. I mean, she expresses through her body much more than I do.
And she's also very involved with the world of dance.
Yeah.
Right.
So that also informs her approach.
So maybe that, but I do feel that words are the sort of the springboard from where our
takes
work seems to emanate.
What about you? What is your...
I think most of the work I've done with Baba has also been monologues in a sense. So logically taking from that the importance of rehearsal has been really strongly inculcated basically in all of us. Also I think Heebs has been like echoing that a lot because of even with the play we do together, Mantu Asmat Hazine, I do Boo, which is like half an hour of just me on stage to start the play kind of thing. So there's literally no way to get around, there's no other way to do a situation, to do a role like that without lots and lots and lots of rehearsal. There's literally, so I mean, in film acting, of course, there's the whole possibly two schools of thought. And I think both, I've heard various actors say relevant and interesting things for both sides of that school of thought. One obviously is that rehearse till the end of the world, and others leave room for spontaneity.
Yeah.
And of course, Baba often says that spontaneity can only come through a lot of rehearsal, which is true. But then there are also other actors who kind of maybe have diminishing returns over many takes or whatever, right? Sometimes their best take can be the first, and maybe their co-actor needs to like 20 takes to reach their best.
Right.
So often, like there might be situations where people, have different ways of doing things. I suppose theatre actors, in most cases that I've observed, I feel because of their necessity for rehearsal over the years, because of the fact that they've done plays, are able to, I think, swing between both.
You're saying when theatre actors move to camera work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah. It's the years of doing theatre or the period of doing theatre that kind of builds that muscle, I suppose, in you that you are able to possibly do both. Have spontaneity without maybe endless rehearsal and hold on to spontaneity even after like endless rehearsal. But with a monologue like this, there's no other way besides lots and lots and lots of rehearsal. So that's something that, because we've been doing a lot of monologue work of late, something that we share in common with each other. But I do also think that there are some actors who give their best performances when they're not over-rehearsed as well. And Baba sometimes has mixed feelings about that. So I feel there's both kinds of people in the world, I suppose.
But you prefer what? You prefer to kind of put in the work?
It all depends on the nature of the role, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But in the theatre, you prefer to put in the work.
Of course, but there's no option, you have to.
And even when you're not working with them, then you're kind of doing the, the hard work and putting in the...
Yeah, you absolutely have to, because again, theatre is like, it's like rehearsing with a band. Like there's a mistake is a mistake. On camera, obviously, like it's different.
How's it been for you moving to camera? Because now you're doing a lot of camera work as well.
Yes.
How do you approach that now? Are you taking anything from
I'm
here?
constantly thinking about the stuff that Baba taught me. It's amazing on a day-to-day basis. Literally, like you go to a set on a shoot, the first thing that comes to my mind is Baba's imagination exercise.
Yeah, that
right.
has
It's like it's on a practical level, not just a theoretical level. Because suppose now. There's a great story that Baba said about how in Manthan he stayed in the hut of the character, and so if nowadays it's difficult sometimes for actors to do that, to actually inhabit the space. Suppose we're playing a character where we have a room and we have to actually inhabit that room, and to live there is going to be difficult. So the imagination has to fill in the blanks. And so Baba's theory, I think, has always stressed the imagination is one of the central tools of the actor's arsenal. Is that how to utilize the imagination, and also how to basically relationship with objects.
Yes,
That's another
yes.
big one. Is that because so that so basically achieving truth in whatever way possible. I think that is one of the things that there's a constant attempt and a pursuit for truth on camera, and in fact it's very interesting because the distinction I find between on camera and on stage is that when we're doing a play, suppose we're doing a scene of both of us sitting across the table and talking. In a play, we're actually sitting across the table and talking, but in a film we might have to create that illusion. You might be looking there, I might be looking here, our space might be bifurcated, there might be cutter stands here, so we have to create, there's a lot of paraphernalia despite which we have to create the illusion of truth. But whereas in theatre we're actually inhabiting that space.
And how easy or tough do you find that?
So that's where the imagination exercise is very central. It really helps with that. Because I think a film actor's greatest challenge is how to achieve truth when circumstances are probably not conducive to that. There's a lot of chaos going on set, and still you have to try to transcend that and create something sublime. So that is one of the challenges of film acting.
But often we do that while rehearsing for a play also. If on the day of the show, if you're setting up, you're going over something, there's so much happening around you. It's that skill to basically...
focus.
Yeah, to focus.
Focus.
In fact, the first play I ever did with Satyadev Dubey was Sambhog Se Sannyas Tak, which was at the old Bandra Rang Mandir, when it was an open-air theatre.
Okay.
And somebody or the other would always be constructing their set about 20 feet away from us, because half the hall was given over to set construction and the other half would be our rehearsal space. So we were always talking over the noise of the set being constructed and in a chaotic play and with Dubey yelling at you and you don't know your... Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I was saying the same thing, that I remember you telling us you should rehearse your lines while the lighting people were setting up their lights.
Yeah.
They were saying, "Baby udhar lagao." So they were, so that really helps you focus.
Yeah. In fact, when I have an actor who's having a problem, who's got stuck in a pattern of speech or can't, make sense, what I make them do is perform an activity while speaking your lines. Go to my bookshelf, take out all the books on the top shelf while speaking your lines and put them back in the same order.
Right. So you're focusing on that as well. But
And strangely, it helps you focus on your lines as well.
Much better.
as
Much
muscle
better.
memory.
And
for
you'll
both
find,
things,
and you'll find a certain freshness coming into the way you speak your lines. If you're not concentrating so hard on what's my next line,
Then it becomes second nature.
it should become second nature. And if you find yourself thinking, what is my next line, you're sunk.
Then you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. You should not ever be thinking, what is my next line? You should be thinking, what is the next thought?
Oh, that's a very good point. Ratnadi, you're doing lots of camera work. And do you find yourself using any of the tools from the years of theatre, or is it a different switch off?
Not at all.
Oh, no.
So is it
Everything.
Absolutely.
Lock, stock and barrel. I go with my knapsack full of all the tricks one has learned and all the understanding that has come from these years of performing on a live stage, performing to an audience. In fact, I cannot understand actors who want the eyeline cleared.
This is a new
constantly.
thing. This is
Yeah.
a new thing. I don't
Oh,
understand.
it's not a
it.
new thing. It's been around.
It's just been around.
Yeah. And it's so
And I can't understand
bloody
that.
irritating.
I mean, I'm delighted to have an audience there. It's good to have some face looking at you, and you suddenly catch somebody's eye for a second, and you know that there's somebody listening. Otherwise, this, talking in a vacuum, it's scary for me.
And why should you be bothered by a light boy standing there doing his job?
Right.
He's not getting disturbed by you spouting your bloody emotional line.
But nowadays,
It's just a question of asserting your special status. Yeah, the guy out there. Arey bhai, you should not be able to see him if you're concentrating on your
but the trouble is, nowadays light boys are all sitting there with their cameras and phones. That I do find a little painful. Nobody there. I checked before I said this. I looked around.
And when work for camera can be of varying quality in terms of also what it requires from you as an actor. It can, both ends of the spectrum. Do you find yourself making as much of an effort if it's at the lower end of the spectrum, or is there shortcuts that you'll use at that point of time, or does your process remain unchanged?
The process remains unchanged in as much as you have to make contact with the camera. If the camera is this close, or if the camera is 50 feet away, you have to make contact with the camera. The same way you're going to make contact with every member of the audience, not individually as a mass, but there are moments, sometimes, it doesn't happen very often, but when you know that you've got there, and those moments are invariably in complete silence, but you know that everybody here is I'm on everybody else's wavelength, or everybody else is on mine. So I don't change my technique at all. I don't think there's a huge difference between acting on the stage and acting in cinema. It's a fallacy to imagine that on the stage you got to act like this, you know, and in the cinema you act only with your eyes. And, you act with your whole body. Otherwise, even a close-up of your eyes won't look nice, won't look correct, if the rest of your body is not truthful. So I don't find any contradiction. And in fact, if you think about it, all the greatest cinema actors in the world, whether you think of England, America, Italy, Germany, Sweden, are all from the theatre.
Yeah.
Japan, they're all from the theatre. You can't think of a single actor who started in cinema and became a great theatre actor.
Yeah.
Whereas the reverse is very, very true.
But as for your question about the variety
No, but
of
I'm also
work,
talking about good quality and bad quality. कभी-कभी हम
quality
बहुत
and bad
खराब काम
quality,
कर रहे हैं ना बाहर तो वो.
But I mean, I don't have any problem. I have done a lot of, or let us say, I have done very little work that is of a high quality. You know, of all the work that I've done most of my work on television. So that's not the same kind of quality that we are all talking about when we talk about great art. But I have realized that if I don't give it my all, and if I don't use what I have learned doing what I'm doing in the theatre, if I don't use that skill, then this doesn't sound right and this doesn't look right.
तो खुद से cheating तो नहीं कर सकते.
What's the point? And I do so little work that इसमें भी cheating करूँ. I mean, I can understand अगर मैं 4 shift कर रही होती और एक में चलो ठोक के आगे बढ़ो. That I can understand. But कुछ कर ही नहीं रही हूँ मैं. 2 साल के बाद एक नाटक मिलता है या एक रोल मिलता है तो उसमें तो कम से कम मेहनत करो.
अभी तो काफी.
But what I'm saying is that
Have you ever done that? 4 shift कर रहा हूँ एक में.
हाँ. 4 nahi, but I have done 3 shifts a day, and there is no worse torture in the world. And there was a time when I was acting in several lousy movies to make money. I would go from one set to another, and I realized that no amount of money is worth this agony. To jump from one set to another. And half of the time you're bloody socializing on a film set, you know. A lot of time, if you get there at 9 o'clock shift, then you spend another hour or so chatting and having breakfast and, you know, enjoying the scenery and gossiping. And I know somebody who would love that.
Heeba, coming to you and moving away from acting, we've spoken about acting. Now you're directing your own stuff. On stage, you've recently done a couple of plays. You also have your own theatre company.
Yes.
Do you find as a director there have been learnings that you've taken from them,
Yes.
or is your style very different?
No, I've taken everything from them, and luckily, they've trained me in a very beautiful way. Like we were talking about, I've also done a couple of films in which the director didn't really direct me. So, because of Baba's training and Ma's training, I managed. So, the imagination and the focus, I think everything that I have right now is from them, and the reason why I'm managing to do anything right now is because all the training from.
But
Baba
the credit for writing that stuff goes to her alone, because I don't think we've had any
Input
or anything to say in that, and I'm very glad that we haven't needed to, and nor has she needed to ask us for help, because neither of us is a playwright, and I think she's written a couple of wonderful plays. And you learn on the job, which I think is what happened with
So
Heeba.
your theatre company, what is it called?
It's called Alchemy.
Alchemy.
And so the stuff that you've been doing, so since you've branched out and you've done it, so what is the kind of vision or agenda for the kind of work that you're doing? Is that the stuff, only stuff you're writing, or is it like, what is the...
No, I started off doing the Conference of the Birds.
Yes.
And I made a mistake of like, I took a lot of people. There were like 33 people to begin with. And Motley was sponsoring it, so it was wrong. But over time I've managed, then basically I've been working on, the first play that was a poem. The second play was an Indonesian a story, which I made into a play, Shadows. That was a children's play.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I started writing my own play during the lockdown, basically. And the reason was because at some point there was a point, I think everybody felt, you felt, is this life going to be exactly the same right now? Is it going to be so difficult to you want to meet your parents for their anniversary? You have to like, so the contact of the humans, I realized how important it was for humans to contact, and how somehow the governments were trying to keep us apart. I don't know, it was just a thought. So I wrote that play during the lockdown. And then the second play that I wrote was about this magical tree. Anything's possible, huh?
And you're enjoying this playwriting thing? Are you going to continue doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very difficult. It's very difficult, but it's fun. It's very rewarding. Like, if Vivan's written so many books, and Baba's written a book, I realize how difficult it is to write now. But I never thought that I could be able to put my thoughts into words. I used to admire writers and painters because those are the things which I never thought I'd be able to do. So yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to explore.
There's been a lot of plays that have run really long and done really well, but what happens, what's the process of dealing with the play, and how do you figure out that this play is not working? And what do you do with that then?
Well, one sure sign is if the audience doesn't turn up.
The audience turns up.
No. We decided to go commercial because I had my fill of Godot and Endgame and all this. So let's do The Odd Couple.
Oh, wow.
Commercial play.
You did that? You acted in it?
Yeah.
Ahmed Bhai was also in it.
Ahmed was in it.
We'll tell you stories about it afterwards.
Benji was in it. Kareem was in it.
The Odd Couple was who? You and...
The Odd Couple was first Kareem and me, then Benji and me. And we thought it would be a roaring success. The audience stayed away in droves, So we we abandoned it, and then we realized this kind of stuff is not for us. And also, I mean these Neil Simon kind of plays, I don't find them terribly stimulating. They're funny, all right. They're like a string of jokes. But then there was also something like The Truth, which just didn't seem to have any substance. A play doesn't reveal itself to you quickly.
Right.
That's what I believe. And whatever its shortcomings or its attributes become apparent after you have engaged with it. And so I found The Truth very funny when I first read it, but it didn't have anything beyond being funny. Whereas a play like The Father,
By the same playwright, yeah.
by the same playwright, or Ismat Chughtai's writing,
Yes.
one just keeps peeling off layer after layer of meaning. Godot, of course, also. Cane Mutiny also. The more you engage with it, the more you discover in it. And if I find I'm not being able to move any further with this play, that's when I decide to close it down. And that's what I felt with The Truth, and that's what I felt with The Odd Couple, a couple of other things also that we did.
You're still performing The Father?
We are reviving it.
Oh, okay. And just one question, I don't know, do you all think about this at all, but like, what's the future of Motley looking like?
As long as Naseer is around, Motley will run. After that, if the kids want to take it forward, yes. But I really feel very strongly that as a person who starts a project, that project is your project. You go with it for as long as you can. To expect others to take it forward is a mistake.
No, but do you
if
feel
it happens
do you guys feel
organically,
any
it's a
ownership in
different
it? Do
thing.
you
Of
feel
course,
that?
no, of course
As in,
we'll
do
So
you-
if that
yeah.
happens organically, that's a different thing. But I have seen too many people just trying desperately to keep something going because it had value for X or Y or Z. That doesn't work. What you're doing has to have value for you.
Right.
And you've got to see that I want to be committed to this and I want to spend time and energy and effort on this. That's a very important, as Imaad said, there's no point just doing theatre. You don't get too much money, you don't get too much audience a lot of the times.
Yes.
And so then why are we doing it? We are doing it only because it really matters. We want to say this thing in this particular way. That's what makes it worthwhile. So hopefully they will find reasons to keep it going, or it'll change, it'll evolve. Somebody will into film production, God knows what.
And also, very interesting thing is that all three of us.
I acted in one film.
Of course, of course.
Oh,
No,
that
very
is okay.
interesting thing because all three of us also have another art form that we're involved with,
Yes,
music, dance and literature. And I think all three of us in our own ways are trying to create some kind of an alliance or marriage between with Threepenny Opera, which is one of the most beautiful experiences. Where because Im is from the music industry, so he was kind of trying to bring an alliance between the music world and the world of theatre. And so, in fact, Threepenny Opera had a lot of people in it that had never been in a play before. They were from the music world. They were musicians and singers. And Felix or whoever, you know, there's so many people who never thought that they would be doing a play. They're professional music people. Heeba, on the other hand, is bringing the world of dance into, and I'm currently trying to create an alliance between the world of theatre and the world of publishing. So we're all trying to do our own stuff in a way, you know, to contribute something interesting and new and, you know, that sort of thing.
Do you, Nasir uncle, do you ever find yourself thinking about legacy and stuff like that? About the way what's going to be ahead and how it's going to be?
No, my great dream is that Motley should outlive me, but I won't be around to see if it does or not. I don't think of legacies and stuff.
Dumping that weight on somebody else is very, very not fair at all.
Did you never at any point of time want a performance space of your own?
Well, yes, but it was beyond our means, always, still is. For me, more important than a performance space is a space where I can work and help young actors
And that you've achieved.
achieve their potential. That I've been able to do.
You know, but I always wanted a rehearsal space. I don't want a performance
Yeah,
space.
but a space of your own. in
rehearsal
Yeah,
space,
a rehearsal space. I'm desperate. I wish we could have had this. You know, this place where we are, if this could be our rehearsal, if it belonged to me, I'd make this into a rehearsal space.
Yeah, there was a time back in the day when we had a go down in Amboli that just happened to have a loft.
Yeah.
So we used to rehearse
Rehearse
below.
there.
And I think it was the most creative phase.
A rehearsal space of my own.
Yeah, I can see what Ratna is saying, but I didn't have any such dream because for me, to rehearse in the same space every day stultifies the actors a little bit.
Okay.
Because then they get used to this geography. I prefer to rehearse here today, somewhere else tomorrow, so that the actors can respond to the geography of the space as it is, not imagining this space to be the Prithvi House or being Prithvi Theatre. I think that's very important for them to be able to adjust because, as you know, we seldom do a run more than 2 shows in the same theatre.
Right.
So if you're going to get thrown by the change of
Performing
space,
in different theatres also adds so much to
performing in different theatres also adds so much. In the same way as rehearsing in different spaces and treating that space's geography as it is, not imagining it to be some other space. I think it definitely, it helps relax. It does help relax the actors. It does train them to adjust. The same way as performing at the Prithvi or performing at the Opera House makes you adjust.
Okay, so I'm coming to the slow burn section. Everybody, I'm separating some of the questions for. So the three of you, and because they've done a significant amount of work on stage, I'm limiting it to the stage. What are your favorite performances of your parents on stage?
How many do we name or just a few?
I mean, if you loved all, then I suppose you.
No.
But one's good.
Okay.
Ones that stayed with you. So yeah.
For Baba, I think Ismat Appa ke naam. Mahatma versus Gandhi, strangely enough.
Why strangely enough?
Because that play had a lot of background to it, and if you talk to anybody from that unit of the play, the first unit of the play, they will share all kinds of stories about why they hate that play, dislike. But you can't hate the play. You can hate other elements connected to the play. Let's put it that way. But not the play itself. The play itself was pretty great, and KK and Baba were playing
Yes, I've
Gandhi
seen-
and
I've seen
the
that,
son, and
yes,
they were
yeah.
both incredible. Waiting for Godot, definitely up there. With Ma, also Ismaad Appa ke naam. Romance for Ruby.
Axe is also there. Yeah,
I was in that. I was in that. I was in that.
Oh yeah, you were in it as well.
My intimidation has a long history. It started with God. He used to run the boy off stage, right? At one point of time. I think that was the first trauma. Then I was directed by Romance for Ruby. So yeah, but Romance for Ruby, yeah, that was that did quite a few shows actually.
Romance for
Yeah.
Ruby did, and I think probably Manto Ismat Hazir hai, her Sutradhar in that. That's the one that's kind of most upfront in my mind because we've been doing it of late. Yeah.
Waiting for Godot, and of course Einstein. Ismaad Appa ke naam because I watch it from the wings. I love it. I love listening to it. And I also loved you in The Odd Couple. I loved it. I thought I didn't know that I didn't do well commercially, but I loved watching it. And yours, Rupert's Birthday, I thought you were very good. But Pearl Padamsee, remember she had directed
No,
Oh,
that
that
was
was
Deceptions.
called
Deceptions.
That
Yeah.
was called Deception.
I loved both of you in that.
Don
also.
Juan in Hell was Dubey Kaka.
Dubey's,
And Dad was
Yes,
in
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
So
And
this
what's-
is
what's
this
Ru-
was La Liaison Dangereuse, which Pearl Padamsee
Padamsee
did,
directed.
and she called it Deceptions.
And Dear Liar.
What is Rupert's birthday? What?
Rupert's Birthday is a
Vikram
short,
Kapadia.
it's a story which Vikram Kapadia had directed.
Okay.
And we did it as part of 2 or 3 other short stories.
They're wonderful stories.
They're lovely stories.
Wonderful story.
Rupert's Birthday.
Crayon from Antigone, Gharwali in Ismat Appa ke naam, and I think the third would be a tie between Godot and Einstein. It's very difficult to pick. Since we had to pick three.
Antigone, huh? That's
Yeah,
nice. okay.
Antigone. But Godot, Einstein and Ismat Appa ke naam. And it's also very interesting because in Gharwali, Baba gets to play the cultural milieu that he grew up in.
Yeah.
The mohalla of Ismat Chugtai is the mohalla that Baba grew up in. You know, so I've always found there's a beautiful union when it happens between the actor and the geographical milieu that they're depicting, and when they know it so beautifully and authentically.
Which is the reason you keep going back to the material also, to the play, to the writing, right?
Yeah, because I just feel I have a very close association with the kind of people she writes about, and I know that milieu very well, and I love it. That is why, and also because the writing has a great deal of depth.
And it is still sounding contemporary.
Exactly.
एकदम अभी का लिखा हुआ लगता है वो.
Almost unfortunately, but yeah.
And in Ma's case, Antigone,
right.
all about
Oh
my
yeah,
mother.
I forgot Antigone.
All about my
All
mother.
about
Yeah, that's
my
a big
mother.
one for me
What
also.
that
Yeah, yeah.
ending
Yes.
monologue when she talks about the feeling that a parent gets when a child dies. That, I mean, you think about that only you get goosebumps. That, and then I would say, you know, like this thing, even Androcles, but that was a smaller kind of, itna nahi tha, but I would definitely say Mughal Bachcha. Mughal Bachcha had a profound effect on me.
Yeah.
I thought you would say Hindustan Chhod Do.
Oh my God! Thank you for pointing that out. Thank
That
you.
one we are going to do, Abhi. That's
Hindustan
Yeah.
Chhod Do is, I think,
Hindustan,
one of Ma's
yeah.
greatest
Yeah,
performances.
she's
And again, and now so interestingly, like what I said about Baba and UP and Ismat Chugtai, same thing happened with Ma in that. She's doing Bombaya. She's doing the Bombay that she grows up. All the bhais and the bhaji walis and the machi walis that she's grown up with, she's playing them. So again, I've always felt there's a wonderful, some magic alchemy happens
Yes.
when the geographical zone and the actor meet.
Hindustan Chhod Do is part of,
It's just a story that we did.
which you've performed already.
Yes, at Prithvi House.
Readings as readings. So it's never been done.
These are all the various things that we were doing during lockdown.
During lockdown,
कुछ कर रहे थे ना हम लोग सब.
Their performances that have impressed you.
Imaad's little Zizou,
Ah, yes.
yeah, I thought he was wonderful in that. And a film which we did last year called Knock on the Door by Ranjan Palit.
Is it out?
Well, it'll never come out.
Oh, wow, that was the contrast. He said it's coming out, it's coming out.
There's the optimism and the opposite of that.
No, it will have a tough time coming out.
Oh.
Because it takes on the establishment.
Right.
But I thought Imaad was very, very good in that. And on stage, my favorite is during a show of Village Wooing, which he was not acting in. But the play began, and this is the set of a shop.
Yeah, I've seen.
And after it had begun, suddenly this tall, thin creature crept out from behind the counter and went creeping out.
What are you doing there?
I was doing backstage. So my best performance on stage was a backstage mistake.
Takes a lot, man. That getting out of, yeah.
And to that, I'd like to add him in Boo. I really think, and more than, it's not a finalized performance yet. I can see that he has some distance to go still. But I love seeing the way in which it has developed and the way in which he has grown as an actor along with that.
Yes, because there was the challenge of the language as well. There was the challenge of the period, which is pre-independence, challenge of a small town, which he's never lived in, and the challenge of the language.
I mean, it's a toughie at many
It's
levels.
hellishly. It's an incredibly tough piece.
It's a mood piece. In fact, all of them are. There's no plotting.
Story.
There's no story. It's just moods that these writers have managed to create magic with. That you are riveted listening to somebody describing an ephemeral moment in a day. It's a really beautiful piece. And as I said, Imaad has, I can see that there's some distance he will go with it. But definitely, that's one of the performances I liked very much.
Yes.
I've seen Boo, that's yeah.
And the others? Heeba.
Heebs, I remember her performance as Mother Teresa when she was in school.
Yes, what a lovely one that was.
Yes.
Yes, that was your first.
That
time
was
on
that
the
was
stage.
that was her first, and she was very good in that. And of course in Chui Mui.
That's his one.
Chui Mui is definitely, and a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes. That you
I
were in.
have forgotten who did it. I think
Bhupen Deshmukh did it.
right, yeah.
She was acting in it.
And
Liaf.
Heebs was really good in that.
Half is one.
Yeah.
But that's the easy one because
Yes,
I mean,
the most-
it's a piece that she can really dig her teeth into, and she does so wonderfully. And the young man. Where do we begin?
No, I liked his performance in the film called Court, which has hardly been seen, which is hopefully to come out one of these days, but who knows
No, it
when.
released in theaters, but I think it might find a home on this DD platform that's now being...
The new Waves.
Yeah.
Waves, it's
Correct.
called. Yeah.
Doordarshan is opening a...
COAT, Coat. Yeah. I saw
Coat.
you post about it. Yeah.
Because again, it is a milieu which he's completely unfamiliar with. If if I am being given credit for being convincing in a milieu which I am familiar with, I think an equal amount of credit is due to an actor who performs in a milieu he's not familiar with. And the milieu of Court, I mean, it was leagues away from what Viv's actual life has been and how the kind of person he's been. And he's put in a hell of a lot of effort in that performance. And what I believe is that any effort put into any direction never goes to waste. It may not have an immediate fallout, but it will never go to waste. It all adds up somewhere. His performance in the Alan Poe, the one that he's done.
Yes, he did those.
The tragedy, the comedy of
What was
horrors.
it called?
Comedy of Terrors.
Terrors. We did that at Cuckoo Club
Yes,
also. Yes,
that was Comedy of Horrors.
Comedy of Horrors. Yeah.
This is
okay.
Comedy of Terrors.
This is a new one.
It's a one-man show. It's like...
You've done this.
Yeah, I do it.
I haven't seen this. I've seen
I'll
the
let you
earlier
know what
one.
happens
Okay.
next.
And once when he was in school, I heard him read the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock when he was in school. I think class 10 or something.
Yeah, class 10,
I was really very impressed.
Superb that was. I really liked that one. And I liked you in that, what was that play that you did for Rage? about these
Anand
four
Express.
boys.
Anand Express. Of
yes,
course, which
that's
acts wrote the adaptation of?
Yes,
Oh,
this
yes,
was also
yes.
an Aadyam play.
Aadyam play, yes.
Right, thank you so much, guys. This was absolutely wonderful, and it flowed a lot more freely than I was really nervous, but I thought it went all right. Okay, thank you.
15 minutes.